and you may be seated. And I hope that we hear their voices throughout our service, because as great-grandchildren of Mike Musiker, right? They are the celebration of his and Judy's life together in so many ways, as all of you are, and the rest of their family. My name is Rabbi Todd Chisner. I'm the rabbi here at Temple Judea. And along with Temple Judea's cantor, Deborah Jacobson, and Temple Judea's cantor emeritus, Richard Berman, it is our honor to lead today's service as we remember Mike Musiker. We will begin with the traditional words of Psalms, reminding us of our faith, reminding us of the hope of life eternal, reminding us that we have the strength that has been given to us by our loved ones to go forward. And so we continue with the chanting of Psalms.
Psalm 121, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz. And the 23rd Psalm, the familiar Psalm, a psalm of comfort. Rabbi will lead the English after I chant it in the Hebrew. Adonai roi lo hechsar bino deshe yabitzeni al mei menuchot al mei menuchot yinaleni nafshi yishovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo irora ki ata imadi shiftacha umishantecha hema yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai vishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya ach tov chesed yedafuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai liorech yamim Adonai roi lo echsar. The I shall not want.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And let us say, Amen. It is this house of the Lord, this Olam Haba, this concept within Judaism that we treasure and value, that our souls live on in another realm, and that they are rejoined by other loved ones as well, are welcomed to that place, especially by immediate family. And so we take a moment to acknowledge, as we acknowledge that Mike Musiker's soul has entered into that Olam Haba, his parents of blessed memory, Victor and Gertrude, his siblings, Harold and Shirley, as well. May their memories also be for blessing. But King David, in his very last verse, when he acknowledges this eternality of the soul, precedes it by saying, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I can't think of a better more fitting kind of understanding of Mike when it comes to the people that were in his life, not just his family, but everyone whose lives he touched. It was almost like he was in the center and was orbited by so many people who reached out to him and needed him. And so I ask God to send comfort to all who are in mourning, especially to his beloved family, his beloved wife, Judy. May God comfort you. To his sons and daughters-in-law, Bobby and Sharon and Jimmy and Jill, God comfort each of you. To his grandchildren and their spouses, Jake and Tara, Ashley and Andrew, Casey and Jenny, and please, I didn't leave anyone out, did I? Okay. God comfort each of you. To his great-grandchildren, Claire, Mo, Isla, and Georgie. Hi. May they learn about him throughout their lives. They will. When I first arrived at Temple Judea over 18 years ago, people were very proud to share with me the legendary people who helped build this temple. There were the two rabbis who preceded me, Rabbi Lipsy and Rabbi Bergman, both of blessed memory. Cantor Berman, who had retired not long before I began here, after being the cantor here for 44 years, and became our cantor emeritus, which he is to this very day, and is literally here with us today because of his longtime relationship with Mike, Judy, and the whole family, not to mention that he may have been there at like every significant moment of your lives. I think from bris through wedding and everything in between, bar mitzvah, confirmation, for both Bobby and Jimmy. That's unbelievable. So glad that Cantor Berman can be here with us today. And then there was the other legendary name, the other legendary person that would pop up very often, Mike Musiker. So from 1957 to 1982. And by the way, this temple was built in 1960, so it's going back to the very beginning days. From 1957 to 1982, Mike built and ran the most successful youth group program in the country right here at Temple Judea. No slight to the clergy whose names I mentioned, but Mike's name came up even more often than theirs. Primarily by people who grew up here at the temple and who spent their afternoons in our former youth lounge, which is now, for better or worse, catering space. Now, the stories of the youth group were more than just, playing ping pong and pool. They played deck hockey in the youth lounge here. I mean, how cool must that have been? It was more than that as well. The adults that would regale me with these stories of the glory of Temple Judea told me how their involvement in Mike Musiker's youth program helped to shape the person they would eventually become. And by the way, I received several emails to this effect after people heard about Mike's passing. So it was in the essence of what they were saying to me throughout the years was how he gave them confidence, how he had the ability to bring the best out of people. Today we are going to be hearing from a dear friend of Mike's, his grandchildren, his sons, who will no doubt share the many more ways that Mike impacted people's lives, from being a guidance counselor to how he and Judy were camp owners, to running his tour company, to being a college counselor. He literally devoted his life to thousands and thousands of individuals. But here's the amazing thing. His impact wasn't just felt as a group leader. It was directed towards each and every person, one at a time. We often speak about tzedakah here at Templeton, and most temples do. Tzedakah usually refers to giving charity, giving money. But there is another way to give tzedakah. The word itself has more to do with the concept of righteous behavior and justice, providing justice in the world. So it's best described by the 12th century Jewish philosopher Maimonides, who said the highest form of tzedakah goes well beyond giving money. It is about giving someone an opportunity, helping someone find their way in this world. It involves time. It involves investment in people. It involves seeing people's strengths that they don't see for themselves and bringing it out of them, ultimately so that person can be able to do for others as has been done for them. I don't think it's hyperbole for me to say I have never learned about a person who has done more of that kind of tzedakah in this world than Mike Musiker. It's reasonable to wonder then, as I did when I was speaking with the family, how can a person devote so much of their time to so many people and still manage to be present and available for their own family? And yet Mike and Judy found the ways to do this. And we might be hearing some of those ways that they managed to do this. Today, I want us all not only to mourn Mike's passing, but to learn from his life. Let's face it, too many times we say things that reveal our complacency. We make excuses like, our world and our lives are just too busy. There's only so much time we have to help others. Well, let us learn today what Mike knew and how he lived. May his quality and character become more a part of our lives and thereby make his life forever a blessing through our lives. And let us say, Amen. And so now call forward Stan Seibel, dear friend of the family, longtime friend of Mike.
Mike always said, be prepared. I have a few notes. Rabbi Chisner, Cantor Emeritus Berman, Cantor, members of the Musiker family. This is when it gets hard. All of you gathered here, and those who are observing digitally in an age more modern than I'm used to. Mike beneficially influenced the lives of thousands of people within the temple, within the travel industry, within counseling, within touching and socializing. Mike benefited the lives of many families through care and nurturing of their children, including Nancy's and mine. As a result of that nurturing, our sons were enrolled in college, graduate school, and more importantly, met their wives, and in certain cases gave us grandchildren. Mike Musiker. When I say Mike, I mean also Judy, because they are one. They are one. So thank you, Judy. As the days since Mike's passing have transpired, the Musikers have received hundreds of condolence notes. And I read through most of them yesterday, and I wanted to share a few words with you. I want to build a little bit upon what Rabbi Chisner said. It's difficult within this perspective to tell you all about Mike, and I don't intend to do that. I'm just going to share a little about him. I've only known him for 70 years. I know a little bit more about him than some of you, but there was so much to Mike, you can't bring it out in one statement in this environment. People said Judy and Mike were bookends in life. Mike taught by example. He was charismatic. Thank you. He guided me to college and career. A positive influence, caring, creative, and fair. I have spent my life paying it forward because of Mike. He flapped his wings and dreams took flight. And this one, which reflects what you said, Rabbi. He made me more than I thought I could be. He made me more than I thought I could be. Mike and Judy were inseparable, are inseparable. And Nancy and I were blessed to be embraced by them for so long and so deeply. With that in mind, my words are not a eulogy. They're an expression of my deepest gratitude to Mike and Judy for the relationship they shared with us. I met Mike when I was 14 years old. So our friendship grew from his being friends with my parents, with Judy and Mike. And then as we aged and Nancy came into our lives, the friendship became less parental and more even. And as my parents passed and Mike and Judy aged, and Nancy never aged, but I did, we created a relationship with their beautiful children. This past Saturday, last weekend, Nancy and I had come in from California. We wanted to visit with Mike and Judy. We had spent the weekend with them. Mike was coming in the door at the entrance level of their house in Watermill. I don't think many of you have been there, but some of you have. And just to give you the concept, this is the level you come in, 8 steps, 9 steps higher. You have to come up those steps. Here's a 93-year-old man who would not use a staircase elevator, but insisted on climbing those stairs every time. He looked up at me after he struggled getting through 7 of those stairs, pulling up with his hands, trying to get the last 2 steps And he said to me, and this is returning from a wonderful breakfast at Jimmy's and Jill's house with almost all the family there. He looked up at me, and he was always profound to me, and he said, "This is 93. Do you want 93? Well, I can wait a little while for mine." I said to him, as he came to the top and caught his breath, I put my arms around him, I kissed him on the forehead, and I said, "I'll take that 93, because without it, there would be an unfillable void in my life, not knowing what was to come." He said to me, "I love you, and I'm glad that you are here." His indomitable spirit was demonstrated by something Rabbi didn't talk about, but I'll do a little aside. When he was 60, you can clap for him, it's fine. Yay. When he was 60, his boys sent him to a Red Sox baseball camp. It was one of the memorable events of his life, not the most significant, but it was memorable. And he wore that jacket for, I think, 33 years, on and off, including this year. So I often think of that jacket as emblematic of his spirit. The man who climbed those stairs would not give in to age nor infirmity. We left Sunday morning after having breakfast with him, and we got the phone call on Tuesday. These events, our love for Mike and his values, brought to mind a poem that unfortunately is used at occasions like this, but I thought it pertained, and I want to read it to you, if I can see it. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his casket from beginning to end. He noted first came the date of his birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, and the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what is true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger, and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we never have before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a while, So when your eulogy is read and your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say and how you spent your dash? 1930-2024. Here is a small part of how Mike spent his dash. He was a remarkable individual who meant so much to all of us. For me, he was not just a best friend, but a brother, a teacher, a mentor for almost 70 years. To speak of dear Mike is to speak of a life well lived, of wisdom shared, and of love that knew no bounds. He was a pillar of strength, a beacon of light in our darkest hours, and a source of inspiration for all who knew him. His kindness, his generosity, and unwavering support touched and influenced the lives of families actually throughout the world, and by his unselfish dedication to children. As a best friend, he was always there with a listening presence and a shoulder to lean on. He shared in our joys and sorrows, offering his wisdom and guidance with unconditional love. He was a rock upon which we built our lives and the steady hand that guided us through trials and tribulations. As a brother, he stood by my side through thick and thin, as a constant source of love and support. His laughter echoed in our hearts, his smile brightened our darkest days, and his spirit infused our lives with warmth and joy. He was not a brother by blood, but a brother in heart and soul. As a teacher, he imparted knowledge and wisdom with a passion that ignited a thirst for learning within me. His lessons went beyond textbooks and classrooms, teaching us about life, love, and the importance of kindness. He challenged us to be the best version of ourselves and to pursue excellence. As a mentor, he guided us on our paths, offering valuable advice and encouragement as we proceeded through life. His words of wisdom echoed in our minds, guiding us through challenges and obstacles. He believed in our potential, even when we doubted ourselves. His belief fueled a determination to succeed. Mike leaves behind a legacy of love, of kindness, and of strength. While he may no longer walk beside us, his spirit will live in our hearts forever. And we are grateful for the time he shared, for the memories he created, and for the love we are blessed to receive. This is Mike's beloved jacket. It's emblematic of his indomitable spirit. And I'm going to read some words from a poem. It's an anonymous poem, but I thought as long as this jacket was here, the poem applied. I am not gone. I am in the hearts and bodies of my children. I am in the raising of my children and their children to come. I am in their laughter and in their eyes. following a lifelong pattern I have set before them. I am in their caring and their strength. I am in the minds of everyone that has known me. Search your hearts for good memories, and then you will know I am not gone. Rest in peace, dear Michael. Your light will continue to shine brightly in our lives, guiding us, comforting us, and inspiring us to be the best versions of ourselves. Thank you.
And now, Mike's grandchildren.
I'll go first. We didn't do rock, paper, scissors before this started, so. Thank you all for being here. This really means a lot. I've seen a lot of faces here that I haven't seen in 15, 20, 25 years, so our hearts are warmed. I'm up here with my dear cousins, Ashley and Casey. Between the three of us from the late 90s to the mid to late 2000s, we were responsible for the stuffing, packaging and stamping of thousands of Musiker tours and summer discovery brochures from the Roslyn office. The business got bigger, and so did the brochures, and the stuffing became a lot more difficult, so I'm just glad that the three of us are up here and looking back that none of us were seriously harmed. I also want to give a quick thank you to the amazing staff at Southampton Hospital who made sure that Mike's final 2 days on this earth were as painless and comfortable as possible. I want to thank Dina, who is here somewhere this evening, as well as Irma, who just really were such wonderful caregivers to Papa Mike and to our grandmother. And he's been kept alive by a lot of amazing individuals in the last decade plus. So the folks at NYU Langone in New York, at Eisenhower Hospital in California, just thank you everyone from far and wide. I've been through a lot of joys in life. Got a toddler now, she's the best. Both my cousins are parents as well. But there's nothing quite like the contentment and the relaxation and the happiness of being a kid at Grandma and Papa's house with my cousins. So it's really special, even given the circumstances, to be up here with both of them. One thing that I learned this past week when speaking with the rabbi earlier this week was the revelation that earlier in his life, Mike could sometimes have a bit of a temper. And I will tell you, we never saw any of that. That's like the classic, from parent to grandparent, the emotions subside, except for one time. I knew she'd criticize me. That's okay. We were with Papa at the airport. I think we were waiting to pick up my dad and uncle who were away somewhere on a business trip. And we were horsing around doing what little kids do. And Papa was very mild-mannered for the first 20 minutes or so saying, please stop, please quiet down. And all of a sudden, I think he grabbed us by the arm and he went, knock it off. And we were stunned. I was very quiet as a kid, so I was just stunned into silence. I had nothing to say. Then Casey, right on cue, goes, yes, sir. But one of the things that I just remember from growing up and all throughout life is he was, as Stan alluded to, I mean, he was a teacher to thousands of people, and that certainly extended to his grandchildren as well. Everything was always a learning opportunity. Driving in the car, wherever we drove past, that was a history lesson. Having a catch was something about the Red Sox. So I would just like to share a couple of things that Papa Mike taught me in the course of my life. He taught me to love history. Story time at Grandma and Papa's, the type of story depended on who was putting you to bed. So with Grandma Judy, it was Goodnight Moon, it was Sesame Street Golden books, books of that nature, literature. And then when Papa Mike would do story time, it was his old textbooks, including some history textbooks from the 60s, the 70s. I don't know, the Soviet Union was still a thing in those books. And at the time, I was like, damn it, I'm not getting Grandma's story time. But, I think it really stuck with me. To this day, I can't just learn one sentence about something. I have to go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole. He taught me how to drive. I will asterisk that and say that it was a golf cart. But he taught me how to drive when I was 10. And during that same drive, we actually got pulled over by the Lakes Country Club Rent-A-Cop because the minimum age to drive a golf cart in the community was 16. And so unexpectedly, he also taught me how to deal with law enforcement for the first time in my life. And probably most important for me being able to be up here today without issue, Papa Mike taught me how to pee standing up. My parents dropped me off at their house for the weekend. They were traveling somewhere, and apparently that was just on the to-do list. And I remember I said, Grandma, Papa, I have to go pee-pee. And Papa must have known to prepare because he clearly had held it in that day already. We went to the bathroom. He put a step stool next to the sink. He demonstrated in the toilet, and I went in the sink. And that's how I learned how to pee standing up. And then the last thing that he taught me that I'll mention today is something that I was had come back into my memory like a tidal wave this week. When I was in second grade, I think, so about 30 years ago, for Columbus Day, well, Indigenous Peoples Day, but 30 years ago was Columbus Day, it was a one-question assignment. It was, how would Columbus get to America if he were alive today? And again, you're expecting a 7-year-old answer. So he flew on a plane. He took a faster boat. So Papa Mike had me write a 2-page essay. And the essay, the gist of it was, well, he wanted to go to India, and so he wouldn't have actually had to go to America because of the Panama Canal, which was built to enable commerce to pass between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and so he actually would have gone to India, and Columbus Day would have never happened. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And I thought of that for 2 reasons. Number one, I know he passed technically on Tuesday physically, but his heart stopped for the first time on Monday, which was Columbus Day. And also, what he was teaching me and my cousins and his sons and everyone, I think he was teaching me how to tell a story. And anyone here who knows Papa Mike knows that that man could tell a story and hold that story for anywhere from 15 to 58 minutes. From when the appetizers arrive to when the check is being signed. And a lot of the stories were amazing. I mean, his memory was just incredible. He could tell you places, names, the exact date, who was there, what he saw, what he heard. And some, I'll admit, I'll be honest, were overlong, or maybe you would lose your train of thought. Sometimes you would look at the time. But listen, Papa Mike worshiped Ted Williams, right? Best hitter to this day ever in the history of baseball, and he only got on base 40% of the time. So not every story is meant to be perfect. But I will say, through the good stories, the not so good ones, whatever they were, I am really going to miss that. Really miss that. And I'm not just eulogizing Papa here. I think that along with people like him, there's an entire art form of storytelling that is dying out, and it's sad. We consume content, media stories all the time, but we're on the phone with someone and we're still scrolling through our phone looking at someone else when we're speaking to them, or you have a podcast on in your ear, but you're doing the dishes or you're cleaning up, or you're listening to something in the car, but you're still, you're driving. It's not your primary task. Like, when was the last time anyone here really just sat and listened to someone talk, just you to them, from their mouth to your ears for an extended period of time? And so my ask of honestly myself, but my ask of anyone here who knew Papa Mike, in order to honor that, just let's all try to be a little bit more present. We have our screens, we have our modern conveniences, but if we don't continue that type of storytelling, it's going to go along with people like Papa Mike. But Papa, wherever you are, we'll just paraphrase Papa every phone call. In the 10% of the time that it was him picking up and not Grandma, he would say, "Thanks for calling, take care." So take care, Papa, and Grandma, we're always here for you. We love you so much, and Papa will be in our hearts forever.
Older sister. Growing up, at sleepaway camp, which everybody knows was a near and dear place to Papa Mike's heart, I had the chance to do 2 speeches, one when I was 10 and one when I was 15 in front of the whole camp. And I vividly remember coming back home to the annual family barbecue when we came back from camp, and we put those VHS tapes on, and he always marveled at my public speaking acumen, and I never really understood, but I hope I'm going to do him proud today, excuse me. We're here to celebrate the remarkable life of a truly extraordinary man, my Papa Mike. I must admit, I hesitated to sit down and write this. The weight of not having him here, I really didn't want that reality to set in. And in preparing for today, I also looked through the countless messages, stories, and memories shared by those whose lives he touched. And I couldn't help but think about sleepaway camp and those ideals and principles that you're taught. How to treat others the way you want to be treated. How to live amongst others, whether they're family or friends or complete strangers. How to be a contributing member of society. How to lend a helping hand to anybody in need. Integrity, tolerance, friendliness, self-reliance, loyalty, obedience, courage, faith, love, and honesty. Papa Mike lived a life of magnanimity, which is the sum of all these ideals and principles: nobleness of soul, freedom from petty feelings and acts, high-mindedness, and true unselfishness. This is who Papa Mike was. Papa Mike was a selfless man, always dedicated to serving others. He lived with a spirit of readiness to help anytime, anywhere. Throughout my entire life, we heard stories from family, friends, acquaintances, and even strangers about Papa Mike, along with Grandma Judy. along with Grandma Judy, brighten summers, open doors for others, and in some cases, even save lives. But today, I'd like to share my personal perspective, because to me, Papa Mike wasn't just a community figure or a family hero. He was my Papa Mike. He was the man who held Grandma Judy's hand as they journeyed through life together. He was the man who never missed a game, a performance, or a graduation. He celebrated every moment, big or small, with his unwavering support. I cherish the vivid memories he shared about his childhood, his life with Grandma Judy, and the adventures of my dad and uncle. There were stories of Coach Campbell urging him to play football, even though his mother wouldn't sign the permission slip. And there was the legendary tale of the Boudreaux shift, devised to prevent Ted Williams from pulling the ball during the 1946 season. Sorry to the Yankee fans, but Papa Mike definitely would have been rooting for Cleveland last night. Among all the stories, what stands out most is the deep love and admiration Papa Mike held for Grandma. Their bond was something extraordinary, a testament to the beautiful life that they built together. Grandma, I know Papa's love for you was one of a kind, and I know you felt the same way. It's the kind of love that illuminated our family and will continue to shine in our hearts forever. Papa Mike and Grandma Judy's marriage, love, adventures through life are the quintessential example of what every couple strives for. As I reflect on Papa Mike's life, I find comfort in the memories that we created together. I'm grateful that we were able to see him last week for the Jewish holidays, where he led his world-famous Camp Motzi prayer. I'm so incredibly thankful that Papa got to not only meet Jenny and his great-granddaughter Georgie, but spend amazing quality time with them and get to know them. But both of whom were fortunate enough to receive the same unconditional love that I always knew from him. I feel so fortunate to have had such a remarkable grandfather who loved me unconditionally every single day of my life. Papa Mike was the perfect role model. He lived his life by doing the next right thing, by being of service to others, by holding his loved ones close, and by finding joy in every step of the journey, never taking a moment for granted. Papa Mike, I will miss you deeply, but your spirit lives on in all of us, and for that I am eternally grateful. Thank you for everything.
Thank you all for being here to honor the life of a larger-than-life man, our Papa Mike. This afternoon, I want to share with you how his impact touched the lives of so many, especially the three of us. Even as a little girl, I understood the impact that my Papa had on the lives of others. As a teacher and guidance counselor in Manhasset, the youth group director at Temple Judea, owners of Camp Kiwani, ski trip organizer, founder of Musiker tours, and pioneer college and boarding school counselor and advisor, he deeply impacted the lives of thousands of children, teenagers, and their families. Growing up, and even to this day, whenever someone asked my name, it was almost a guarantee that it would be met with, "Musiker? Are you related to Mike Musiker?" Followed by an explanation of how my Papa had impacted their life for the better. Many over the years have shared that my Papa's advisement and advice quite literally saved their life. Can you imagine being unable to count the number of times you've been told your grandfather saved my life or your grandfather changed the entire trajectory of my life? For many that he counseled, my Papa saw a potential in them or believed in them in a way no one else at the time did. He believed that there was a place for everyone and that all young people were capable of success. Growing up, for as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a teacher. From a young age, I was enamored by how big of an impact one person could have on so many, and he had passed down one of his strongest values, the importance of education. During every interview after grad school, they would ask why I wanted to be a teacher, and the answer always started with Papa. I'll never forget our phone calls where Papa would ask countless questions about the classes I was taking, the schools I was working in, and always about the kids in my class. Every time we got on the phone or saw each other, he would ask, "How's my favorite teacher?" And he always reminded me that teaching was in my blood. After having my own kids, I pivoted away from teaching and started my own business, and he was still so proud. Instead, he would call and ask, "How's my favorite business owner?" But he would also remind me, starting a business is in your blood too. Hearing stories about Papa's impact was something I never took for granted or grew tired of. Each time I found myself in one of those encounters, I would call Papa to tell him who I had met and what they had said. No matter how long ago his interaction with that person dated back, he remembered every single one of them. Not only did he remember them, but he could tell you where they were from and what their parents' names were too. While you might think that hearing over and over again about how tremendous of a positive influence you had on others could create some sort of ego, my Papa remained the most humble, kind, and wonderful man I've ever known. He was even-keeled, wise, he never raised his voice, and as much as he could tell long stories, and he did tell very long stories, he was an even better listener, a true mensch of a human. He gave, and he never expected anything in return. Over time, his reach, his impact, and his influence have made him something of a legend. And while we always knew this about him, to us, he was mostly just our Papa. My Papa leaves a tremendous legacy behind, but nothing meant more to him than his family, especially his 3 grandchildren. Memories of childhood are filled with my grandma and Papa, from cousin sleepovers with Jake and Casey at 101 the Intervale, rides in the car fighting over the middle seat, Papa measuring how tall we had gotten and marking it on the wall in the closet, golf cart rides in Palm Desert, camp visiting days, and family vacations to Hawaii. But I'll miss the small and special nuances about him the most. His love for a glass of Sincere every day at 5 p.m., watching him enjoy a big plate of pancakes or a blueberry muffin, how he would cut the challah and say the prayer with his own special twist from his days at camp, the way everything reminded him of a story from the past, and how he could recount the story with the most impressive of details. More recently, Grandma would help him fill in any of the details that escaped him. He would smile and nod his head at her help and then continue where he left off. Every time I would catch up with Grandma, she would end the phone call by saying, "I have someone here who I know would love to speak to you." Papa would get on the phone and ask for life updates, starting with me, asking about the kids, how they were doing in school, and always finishing by asking about Andrew. Papa had a way of listening, and without needing to say much, you could feel his pride palpably. You could feel how much he loved and how much he cared. Of all the memories, the most special have been the past 5 years since our kids have been born. Whenever we're together, just spending time with and receiving hugs from his 4 great-grandchildren, Papa cried tears of happiness. I said before that nothing meant more to him than his 3 grandchildren, but that was before his 4 great-grandchildren were born. He could just sit and watch them, infatuated and bursting with pride at the multi-generational family he had created. He would find me and say, "They are amazing," eyes filled with tears. Nothing gives me greater comfort than knowing he got to know and spend time with his great-grandchildren. Every time I saw him, he told me that his life mission was to be there for Mo's bar mitzvah. I know that when the time comes, he will be there with us in his own special way. But Papa was not a one-man band. My grandma was his other half, 2 peas in a pod, a true force of a couple. I never saw one go anywhere without the other, and you would be hard-pressed to find anyone that would say that they weren't the most lovely of people. They were married for 66 incredible years and worked together for many of them. For my entire life, they have served as an exemplar of marriage for myself, Casey, and Jake. Their relationship was admirable. My Papa loved my grandma with every ounce of his being. He called her Judy Beauty. She was the love of his life and his very best friend. They lived quite a lifetime together, raising 2 children, owning a camp, and founding and building a successful business, traveling the world, golfing, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, winters in California, and summers in Watermill. Through it all, they loved and respected each other deeply, and nothing brought them greater pride than the family that became as a result of their love. As Papa always said, l'adore vador, from generation to generation. Papa, we promise to pass down your teachings, your stories, and to tell stories about you to future generations of our ever-growing family. While we have physically lost our fearless leader, we will keep your legacy alive through kindness, by helping others, by listening instead of speaking, and by leading by example. We will miss your presence, your essence, and your kind and gentle soul, but I believe with all my heart that you live within each of us. Each time Mo says something kind and empathetic, like today when we told him we were going to Nana and Pop's house to celebrate him, and he said, "But Mommy, that's not nice. Papa Mike would feel left out." Each time I listen to Mo read a book, I feel your pride in my heart. Every time I watch Isla command a room, I know a piece of your charisma lives within her heart. I love you with my entire heart. It was an honor of a lifetime to be your only granddaughter. Thank you for loving me and for always being you.
Jake, he must have really loved you because Jimmy and I still don't know how to pee standing up.
Oh, no.
It's true, it's true.
Well, no, we know, but we no longer do it. That's all. Different story. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Cantor Berman, we've known since we were little
Oh,
kids.
Chris.
Yeah. And he's very steady hand, very steady hand.
Okay.
It's going to be very difficult to follow
Top that.
these incredible speeches, and about half of what we have in here has actually been said already, so
Bear with us.
Bear with us a little bit, but we're good. But everybody evolves. Everybody evolves. Not Jimmy as much, but we're good.
Okay, so we want to thank everybody who have traveled here today, many of you from incredibly long places, and everyone watching on the live stream. When I look out, I literally, between the phone calls, the texts, the Facebooks, here, see 8 decades of people who have interacted with my dad. And that hits me home, from the 50s to this past week. So again, we want to thank everybody for being here and showing the love to my mom, my entire family, Bob and I, our grandkids, everybody. We are filled with pride and only positive memories of the life Mike lived for 94 years.
In the immortal words of Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Our dad was a serial giver. There's no doubt about that. He gave his time, his sage advice, mentorship, guidance, and love to people young and not so young. And he did that throughout his entire lifetime. He positively impacted the lives of literally thousands and thousands of people in his family, in his community, in his country, and literally all over the world. Can you imagine a more distinguished and more meaningful legacy than that? We can't.
Boston born and bred, Mike never lost the accent or his love of the Red Sox and Ted Williams, as we've discussed. Even though he lived in New York for nearly 70 years. His parents, Victor and Gertie, raised him and his much older brother, Harold, and sister Shirley, in an Orthodox Jewish home. Mike went to shul until he was well into college 6 days a week. He lived in a working-class home in Dorchester, Mass. While he may never lost his accent, he did lose his original name, which many people don't know about, which was Zundel Myron Musiker. Now, imagine growing up on the playground and on the baseball field where everybody called him Zunny. From the time he was 25, Zundel or Zunny, again to his family, officially became Z. Michael Musiker. He went to court and actually changed his name. And he became unofficially Mike for the rest of the world for the rest of his life. We even called him Mike or Mikey. And my mother was always Judy to us because we literally shared our parents with thousands of other kids during our entire childhood. And this was a good thing, actually a great thing.
Whether our parents were head counselors at Camp Lenape, where I was essentially born and my first memory came from, or owners of their own camp called Camp Kiwani in upstate New York. Those old people here can remember the Grossinger's Hotel just up the street, to the time that they founded Musiker Tours in 1966 and Summer Discovery in the 1980s, to the 25 years that Mike spent here developing what the rabbi said before was the largest youth group in the United States, which we were both part of. Jimmy was president, I was vice president, but I was ready in case the president had any unprecedented things they couldn't attend. That never happened, but I'm still waiting. But my father also was a guidance counselor, a teacher, an assistant principal in the Manhasset Public Schools, and believe it or not, was one of the first sex ed teachers in the entire country. A lot of people don't know that about him, but we remember my father bringing home film strips and showing them to us.
In the living room.
And I remember I was probably the only 9-year-old in the world that could identify a fallopian tube. Something not lost on my relationships further on in my... Now I've lost my place completely. Where were we? Okay. Thank you. Oh, they also ran ski trips. My parents did everything, and they did it every single day, every single weekend. They never took any time off. Even vacations were spent, our school vacations were spent chaperoning other people's children to go to the Pines Hotel, to go to Colorado, to go Vermont on day ski trips. I remember my father checking the tires of the bus in case it snowed and sending buses back because they didn't meet his standards. I mean, it was a really amazing and heady childhood, but we saw it as completely natural. And you may think, well, maybe we felt a little left out, not special. Well, we felt very special because we saw the impact that our parents made on our peers and on other people immediately. And it was really fun to be a part of it. And that's why we called them Judy and Mike. No one else called them Mom and Dad, and we didn't either. We just called them Judy and Mike, or Mikey, the rest of our lives. My father became an independent educational consultant when the expression didn't even really exist. He left Manhasset early, took a pay cut, let his pension kind of go off into the wilderness to take a chance, which he's always did. He took a chance on other people, but he took a chance with himself and developed one of the most successful independent counseling practices in the United States called Mike Musiker and Associates. And he practiced until his mid-80s, not to the mid-80s, to his mid-80s, which, in a time where people are retiring earlier and earlier, was really a remarkable feat. My father worked day and night, evenings, weekends, and holidays to make people's lives better.
And the thing is, he didn't write your essay for college. He taught you how to write your essay. His example instilled us an incredibly strong work ethic, the two of us, family, but, and also how to balance work and family when running a year-round, an all-consuming business. But he never missed a Little League game. He coached me for years. Our soccer, basketball, and track meets when we were in high school and in middle school. He was so committed to others that, believe it or not, when there's one or two of you here, when I luckily played in the New York State Soccer Championship my senior year in high school, it was the day after Thanksgiving. And my father actually arranged and chartered a bus so all the parents and all the cheerleaders could come to the game. He was always thinking about others.
It was in Cornell, too. It was up in Ithaca.
It was up in Ithaca, yeah. It wasn't like in Rybrook. But he was always looking out for not only his family, but for everybody else that surrounded him. And I think that has left such a long, indelible mark in Bobby and I as we've continued, hopefully, slowly and slightly in his footsteps.
There were so many things that were unique in Mike's life, and you've heard so many of them today. But today we try to. I felt we would share a few things you might not know about my parents, and really shines a light on who they were in a very deep and meaningful way. First of all, when I was about 7 or 6 or so, all of a sudden we had a woman in the house named Coca, who didn't speak very good English. She was an exchange student from Chile, and my parents sponsored her for an entire year, and she lived with us in our home and went to school in Manhasset, and it was an amazing experience. A couple of years later, my father had come home talking about this wonderful young woman that he was mentoring as a guidance counselor in school, who used to take 3 buses a day from the South Bronx, use a fake address of an aunt in Manhasset to be able to go to Manhasset school so she wouldn't have to go to school in the South Bronx, which at that time was a really tough neighborhood. It ended up that her parents got into some trouble. My parents fostered Queenie Mungeon Davis for 5 years. She lived in our house from 8th grade until she graduated high school. And because of that, we had a sister for 5 years. And Queenie graduated with honors from Manhasset High School. My father took her to school every single day. And she got a full scholarship to Wellesley College, went on to graduate school, and eventually became a petroleum geologist, and both in the private sector and in the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Army. So a lot of things you don't know about my parents, but they're pretty cool, kind of ahead of their time. And the list goes on. Mike helped us tremendous ways, especially when we both applied to college.
And we really needed help.
We did. Yeah, I was, I liked going to school, but I didn't like doing the work very much. And I wanted to go to Colgate University, which is a pretty good school. And I went up there and fell in love with the school, and I had an interview with the Associate Dean of Admissions named Tom Anthony. And I left the interview, and I came out, and Mike said, "I'll be right back. I want to go talk to Mr. Anthony." I said, "No, please, I had a great interview. Please don't go in there." He goes, "It would just be a minute." Half an hour later, he comes. First of all, I go in, and hear laughter behind the doors. And my father comes out and winks at me. He goes, "You should apply." I said, "Okay, all right." So I got an early decision. I didn't deserve it. I did not deserve it.
Well, and let me add, same thing when I went to Hobart. There was no way I was getting into Hobart College. And he said, "Listen, you need a hook. You need a hook." And he goes, "Take a Musiker tour brochure." So I was talking to the guy how I was going to be running and you were crazy, letting me run a trip when I was 18 years old. Take with Bill Ortega, one of our old-time, may he rest in peace, tour leaders. And we didn't talk anything about me. All for in 1 hour, we talked about Musiker tours. This guy thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Meanwhile, I got in a week later, and fast forward, how many years later? Casey Musiker went to the University of Boulder. He did the same thing with some discovery, and miraculously, he got in a week later. So Mike taught us some very, very good lessons.
So here's a stretch and a good story. Mike unfortunately was prone to getting pneumonia when he was in his 80s, and he was hospitalized a few times. And one time it was pretty rough, and he was a little bit delirious. And we were at NYU Langone in New York. Remember that name? And he looks at me and Judy in the hospital room. He goes, "I'm going to call Ken Langone." And if anyone of you know who Ken Langone is, he's one of the most successful business people and philanthropists in the United States, if not the world. Langone Hospital is named after him, obviously, the whole NYU system, because of his charitable work. He is also the founder of Home Depot. And we're like, you can't call Ken Langone. So he picks up the phone, and he has Ken Langone's assistant's number, and he calls, and he garbles a few things into the phone, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, 15 minutes later, Ken Langone walks into his hospital room and says, "Mike," he goes, "you saved the life of my son when you were his guidance counselor, and he's now the CEO of Home Depot. I'm going to take care of you." And that was Mike Musiker. Audacious, but it worked. It worked. So in all of this, we saw vacations and students around us all the time. People would come to our house, walk in. We never locked the doors. We had a skeleton key lock in our back door. We didn't even have a key for it. We shared this with everybody. We went along for the ride.
Well, especially since many of you don't, the office of our business was our house.
Yeah.
It never left our house when we grew up.
And so we love that ride. And Mike worked so hard. You know, a lot of you know Mike is kind of like the freewheeling, globe-trotting, multi-house guy, but my parents struggled for most of our lives financially. Mike held 3 jobs for almost the entire time of actually the entire time of my childhood until I was well into my 20s or even 30s. And I will tell you very specifically that we were not materially wealthy growing up, but our lives were very, very rich, very rich.
So, and have you heard some of these already, but we're going to hopefully not repeat them all. It's the other people's words the last 5 days that we have been inundated with, literally between, I was a Musiker Tour director, and thank you everyone from the Musiker Tour and Summer Discovery family who's here. Our hearts are just, it's, I can't even.
Raise your hands. There's a lot of you here.
Raise your hand.
It's really incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I
And-
fathered you as a child, please, anyone. Thank you.
And I was in the youth group at Temple Judea and Summer Discovery. So many, probably 450 different messages. And we have been moved. And, you know, someone walked in, I won't mention his name, and says, he goes to me, I'm wearing my Gucci loafers because of your father. On my European tour, he told me, one day you're going to want to wear Gucci loafers. And there he is. So my father had so many little impacts on people, some massive impacts on people. So we just want to share some that everyone touched their heart, but just a couple that we want to share with you.
Mike's family will forever carry his teachings and the quiet strength that came from knowing how to listen, when to speak, and when to simply be present. His way of seeing potential in others, even when they couldn't see it in themselves, is a gift that will continue in all the lives he touched.
Mike guided and transformed so many lives. The world is so much brighter and beautiful because he was there. Grateful that I had the chance to share so much time with a man who helped us become more than we ever dreamed we could. I celebrate the greatness of a man who brought out our best.
I can say 100% that Mike changed my life in many crucial ways. I love this man. He was a remarkable human being, and the world is a better place because of his presence in it.
Your dad played a critical role in the formation of the independent education consulting field that I am proudly a part of, but most importantly, he was a wonderful human being.
While his body is gone, immortality is guaranteed through the countless lives he touched and changed.
A true legend and a rare gem that touched so many lives. Mike not only had a life well lived, but lived a very meaningful life.
Mike impacted me in so many ways. The incredible life that he and Judy created is always inspiring to me.
What a beautiful life he led, and in the words of Mikey, be fair, firm, and consistent.
I have lots of fond memories of the Musiker family and your dad. He was truly a caring teacher and just all-around cool dude. From student teen tour to counselor and more, I love being part of the Musiker way.
And my heart almost fell when this person walked in the room today. I've known Mike since I was 12 and just turned 73. I was in his first youth group. The best friend and father figure to every single person who came through the doors of the youth group and Temple of Judea.
The patriarch of the Musiker family and a prime example of all of us of how to be wonderful and be a kind, kind human being.
And finally, from my daughter's elementary school teacher, who then later on worked with my dad, he was always one of the few truly great men I knew, who always seemed to be at their best. He and your mom added so much richness to my life and to the lives of my family. They truly guided huge parts of my development over so many summers and over the years in great advice and engaging conversations. In so many ways, they were truly my ideal of what a great couple should be. Kind, helpful, enlightened teachers, people who gave so much youngsters over literally the decades. And I gave the credit to the wrong person. I apologize.
Yeah, that wasn't the teacher.
No, it wasn't. It was someone else.
Okay.
One of you here.
The teacher was the first one.
Yeah,
quote.
whatever.
So we're done with the quotes now. You can rest easy. No more quotes. What made Mike proudest of all, though, was his family. And let's start with his proudest accomplishment of all, and that was marrying my mom. He loved his Judy. Boy, did he love his Judy. Mike met Judy when he was 25, and Judy was 21, over bagels and lox arranged by their respective best friends in Boston. It was love at first slice of lox. A long-distance romance ensued as Mike had just moved to New York for a teaching and coaching position on Long Island, but soon they were engaged, married in Boston, and then settled in Roslyn. Their love only grew stronger as the years passed, and they were joined at the hip everywhere they went, in their world travels or homes in California and New York.
Mike truly adored and basked in contentment given to him by Judy for 66 years. The two of us, my wife Jill, who I must, from a personal note, Mike was Jill's European teen tour director. Judy was her US tour director, and Bob convinced her to go out with me. My senior year in high school. Quote, it wouldn't last more than 5 years, and we're about to celebrate our 40th anniversary. Sharon, who just became such an important part of our family, his grandchildren, Jake, Ashley, and Casey, and their unbelievable spouses, Tara, Andrew, and Jenny, our 4 incredible great-grandchildren, Mo, Isla, Georgie, and Claire, plus all his cousins, nieces, and nephews, and close friends that consider him family. If you Google soulmates, Judy and Mike's pictures should come to the top of that list without being sponsored.
And
While my mom took care of my dad the past couple of years after several health hurdles, but he got through every one of them with incredible help from Diane and Dina, who are both here today. Thank you. He had a great quality of life to the end. My father didn't suffer. My father spent less than 30 hours in the hospital before he closed his eyes, and we were all together, and we're so thankful for that.
Mike passed away at Southampton Hospital with Jimmy and I, and Sharon and Jill and Judy by his side. Just a few days earlier at Yom Kippur and to break the fast, he was in his element and he was shining, surrounded by his family, including all his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, telling more of his amazing stories, which, as we all know, could be long or short, but mostly long. And he was happy as a man could be. And we look back now, a prescient ending to a beautiful life story.
Yeah, and one of the things that everybody talked about, Mike did like to tell a story, and all my Musiker tour friends will tell you, we would put a clock up just to keep him in check at our tour orientations. We love you, Mikey, and we'll miss you and think of you every day and wonder in amazement at the incredible impact you've made throughout our lives and everyone you interacted with.
And don't worry, we'll continue to make Mom's coffee for her.
Put Mom's eye drops in her eyes every day.
We'll serve you scotch on the rocks. You know, as you know, Mike was the consummate bartender and host.
Keep Mom traveling everywhere and enjoying life as you want her to do.
And make sure that you're well taken care of as you were for the last 70 years. And we can all say,
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Well, Cantor Berman, I wish I had all those years with Mike that you did. After learning so much. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we love. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time on earth is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We remember.
Thank you to each of you for your beautiful expressions of love and remembrance. I can only imagine that there are many sitting here thinking about your own Mike stories that you want to share. And we would, as a, not today or not right now, but maybe during Shiva. So technically this is not Shiva, during the holiday of Sukkot, but the family is receiving visitors. So you are, if you would like to come to Jimmy and Jill's home, 186 Harbor Lane in what town? In Roslyn. Today until 9 p.m., tomorrow from 4 to 9 p.m., bring your stories with you, tell them, or email them. We understand, it made such a large impact in seeing and writing for all of them. So consider doing that. Consider writing it out as well. There's another way to show our honor, and that is to allow the impact of a person's life to be felt in others by making a contribution of charity. And in ways because of your wanting to take some of the qualities that Mike possessed and bring them into this world. And so the family is asked, if you choose to do so, to consider donating to the West End House Boys and Girls Club of Boston, which you can find online at the West End House or westendhouse.org. Know that, westendhouse.org. I believe those are the announcements. This time it is our great honor to call forward our Cantor Emeritus, Richard Berman, to lead us in the El Malei Rachamim prayer. Please rise.
Dear friends, one of the great misconceptions of our day and age is the belief that a person's legacy to humanity depends somehow upon how much status, how much influence, how much money one attains during one's lifetime. The deeper truth abides not in the realm of heroic acts or in a dominating lifestyle, but rather in unheroic acts of kindness, of love, which are demonstrated day after day while living out the time of life allotted to us. Mike Musiker was that kind of person, and I'm proud to have been some part of his life. And this world is a better place because Mike Musiker lived in it. El Malei Rachamim shochen v'amromim Hamatzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina B'malat kedoshim utorim K'zohar akiyam azirim L'nishmat Michael ben Yisrael, Shelach le'olama, Baal harachamim, Yastirehu b'seiter k'nafav le'olamim, Bitzro chayim et nishmato began Eden, Tehei menuchato, Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Mike Musiker. He has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, in the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. And I just realized that due to the High Holy Days, when we had the High Holy Day prayer books, there may not be the regular prayer books in the pews or any prayer books at all. So allow me to lead the mourner's Kaddish. Actually, I can provide a prayer book for Jimmy as well. Sharon. And anyone who would so choose to join in, there is in the traditional realm, you only say Kaddish for your immediate family. There's one exception made, though. The ancient rabbis said, when one teaches another, they become as a parent to the other. They have helped to form and create that person. Again, this message we have heard over and over again, to who they have become. And so in this respect, Mike was a parent to everyone that he met. And so we join together, Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Bi'alma Divara Chirute V'amlich Malchute B'chayechon Uvyamechon V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala Uvizman Kariv V'imru. Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Ulalmei Almaya Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'itpa'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata ta'amiran ba'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all of the bereaved among us.
V'imru, 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 amen. V'imru, 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 amen.
Bruchim atem b'voachem, bruchim atem b'tzeitchem. We were blessed in our coming here today. May we all be blessed in our going forth. Thank you, everyone.